Joining us for our mid-morning edition of Arirang News, I'm Mark Broom. Let's start with a look at the day's headlines. The two Koreas meet again, this time on the northern side of the border, to talk about the Olympic truce. The second meeting is about North Korea's plan to send an arts troupe to next month's Winter Games in the south. A wave of toxic smog and fine dust from China is set to straddle Korea for the next day or two, prompting the government to announce its first ever no driving day. In another measure, the Seoul city government is offering free rides on public transportation during the busiest commute hours. Plus, a 7.1 magnitude earthquake in Peru kills at least 2 people and leaves dozens more injured, knocking down homes and buildings. Local authorities are assessing the damage. Our top story this morning: South and North Korea are meeting again at the truce village of Panmunjom as we speak. North Korea wants to send musicians and art performers to next month's PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games here in the south. For more details, let's connect on the phone to our Ji Myung-gil at Seoul's Unification Ministry. So, Myung-gil, we do hear that these talks have just started. Fill us in.
Hello, Mark. As you say, the two sides have started their working-level talks at Tongilgak, located at the northern side of Panmunjom. The delegations, composed of culture ministry officials, orchestra conductors, and band leaders, will focus their talks on sending a North Korean art troupe to the PyeongChang Winter Olympics. The North 4-member delegation is composed of a chief delegate who is a director of North Korea's Performing Arts Bureau at their culture ministry, including the leader of an all-female band called Moranbong. It's likely that North Korea wants to send the Moranbong band to perform during the Games. This all-female band was established in 2012 by the North leader Kim Jong-un, featuring Western-style music and outfits. On the sidelines, there could also be talks about doing joint performances during the opening and closing ceremony of the Winter Games.
And Myung-gil, apart from sending these art performers from North Korea, sending North Korean athletes to PyeongChang is an urgent matter as well. When exactly do we expect those talks to take place?
You're right, Mark. North Korea actually suggested over the weekend that they first hold talks on sending art performers to the Games. Now, the North has to finalize on how many North Korean athletes they will be sending and what route to take to arrive in PyeongChang. The North will also be sending a cheering squad, observers, supporters, journalists, and a taekwondo demonstration team. So there are still a lot of practical issues that need to be discussed. The International Olympic Committee will hold a meeting this Saturday, January 20th, with delegations from North and South Korea to finalize the participation of North Korean athletes. So we presume more working-level talks will be scheduled before the big IOC meeting. Mark?
Well, thank you, Myung-gil, for that report, and do keep us updated throughout the day on any developments we might hear out of those talks. Now, North Korea has hit out at President Moon Jae-in after he credited US President Donald Trump for his role in opening up inter-Korean talks, even making the veiled threat of pulling out of the PyeongChang Winter Olympics. In protest, North Korea's state-run media said President Moon's rash remarks pour cold water over the reconciliatory phase and are dumbfounding. It added that the North Korean delegation for the Winter Olympics is still in Pyongyang. It also said North Korea will proactively make efforts to improve North-South relations, but will not overlook any, quote, foul behavior from North Korea. In Canada, the top diplomats of 16 countries, including South Korea, the US and Japan, are gathering to talk North Korea. The two-day meeting in Vancouver, set to kick off on Monday local time, brings together ministers of nations concerned about North Korea's weapons programs, as they will discuss mostly security issues surrounding the Korean peninsula. There's also the possibility that South Korean Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa will meet with her US counterpart Rex Tillerson and Taro Kono of Japan for bilateral or trilateral talks, as the Vancouver talks come just after the two Koreas formally met for the first time in over 2 years last week over next month's Winter Olympics in South Korea. Kang will leave for Canada shortly, and the Foreign Ministry is confident the meeting will boost international coordination and spread the consensus for a peaceful and diplomatic resolution of North Korea's nuclear issue. A grand plan has been unveiled by the South Korea's presidential office to reform the nation's key investigative bodies, the National Intelligence Service, the prosecution and police, in an effort to prevent abuse of power by keeping a firm check and balance system in place. Our chief Blue House correspondent Moon Gon-young with the details.
It was one of the South Korean president's key campaign pledges during last year's snap presidential election, a reform of law enforcement and intelligence agencies to prevent abuse of power, one that was utterly exposed in the impeachment of the previous president. 8 months into the job, the Blue House has unveiled its draft copy of the reform involving the nation's intelligence service, prosecution, and police.
We continue to confirm that it was the wrongdoing of the prosecution, police, and the National Intelligence Service that led to the corruption case of impeached President Park in 2017. The Moon administration will end this vicious cycle by putting in place systems to check and balance the power of these organizations.
The Blue House reform plan largely comprises 3 components. 1. The National Intelligence Service will take its hands off local politics and transfer its rights to investigate espionage cases to the police and focus its efforts on gathering intelligence on North Korea and overseas. The NIS has been under fire lately on suspicion that it interfered in various elections, including the 2012 presidential election in which the ousted former leader Park Geun-hye was elected. 2. The prosecutor's exclusive authority to directly investigate cases will be scaled down as the police will take over most of its investigative functions. The move will gain further momentum with the creation of a new body to monitor and investigate corruption and influence peddling of high-level public officials and their families. Now, that includes state prosecutors, judges, generals, lawmakers, as well as the president. 3. The police vested with new investigative powers from the intelligence agency and the prosecution will also be subject to monitoring. A new mission-specific office will be created within the National Police Agency to keep the police in check.
The Blue House says such reform is absolutely necessary to root out social evils such as abuse of power and turn these power-concentrated organizations into ones that stand with the people, not against them. But it remains to be seen whether the reform will be carried out, as it not only requires parliamentary approval, but reflecting on the failure of similar attempt in 2004 by the Roh Moo-hyun administration, under which President Moon was chief of staff. Moon Gon-young, Arirang News, the Blue House.
Now, if you're watching us in Korea, you'll want to put a face mask on before heading out today, because the air quality is looking really terrible, to be honest. With dirty air blowing in from China, the South Korean government is pushing for an alternate no driving day restriction here in the capital to cope with the high levels of fine dust. It is the first no driving day order to be issued by the Environment Ministry, and restrictions would apply to cars based on odd and even last numbers of a vehicle's license plate. On the local government level, the Seoul city government is looking to give free rides on public transportation during commute hours today. The city government says buses and subway trains are going to be free of charge from the start of service until 9 a.m., which is just past now, and then again from 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. It's also the first time fine dust-related policies have been applied to Seoul since related measures were introduced in July of last year. The fee waiver was enforced as fine dust levels reached 57 micrograms per cubic meter on Sunday. Now, with the cryptocurrency frenzy in full swing around the world, different governments are finding their own ways of nurturing it or cracking down on it. Although a handful of officials have had their own say on the matter here in South Korea, Seoul, which is an early mover in trying to regulate cryptocurrencies, is still undecided on its future policies. Park So-yeon reports.
The South Korean government is watching the cryptocurrency craze very closely and has been playing a number of cards to try and minimize its influence. South Korea is planning to impose tougher regulations on cryptocurrency exchanges, even pondering an all-out ban. But the government has stressed that nothing has been decided or finalized. Another country fascinated by cryptocurrencies is Japan. Taking a sharply different approach to Seoul, Tokyo has embraced cryptocurrency with open arms, while emphasizing the need to increase transparency and financial stability. China banned cryptocurrency exchanges in September of last year, concerned that such activities could pose major financial risks to the Chinese economy. In another interesting turn of events, reports say Russia's Ministry of Finance is seeking to legalize cryptocurrency trading after years of strict regulations. Southeast Asian countries have just started to jump on the cryptocurrency train, and Germany and Singapore appear to be adopting virtual currency exchanges, imposing value-added tax. World governments are taking different approaches because there are still so many uncertainties, as the new blockchain technologies that are the backbone of cryptocurrencies make it difficult to predict the future.
Blockchain technology is a key platform of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Its relevance to many different industries and distribution make it necessary to view things from a balanced perspective.
While the South Korean government has insisted it will enforce strict regulations, nothing is finalized as cryptocurrency could be a possible driving force of South Korea's economy in the years to come. With South Korea accounting for a fifth of the world's cryptocurrency market, officials in Seoul are faced with a slew of tough decisions to make. Park So-yeon, Arirang News.
South Korea's export and import prices fell in December on the strengthening Korean won. According to the Bank of Korea on this Monday, export prices dropped 1.6% from a month earlier and 2.1% on year. Import prices were down 0.8% on month. This marks the first time since October 2016 that both export and import prices fell on year. The local currency gained 1.7% against the US dollar to an average 1,086 won in December over the one-month period, offsetting the rise in raw material prices like oil. Now, I've had to wait 30 years, but it's finally back. With the PyeongChang Games just a few weeks away, the Olympic torch is back in the Korean capital for the first time since the 1988 Seoul Olympics. Cruising through Seoul over the weekend, the torch relay was greeted by big crowds of citizens and celebrities, and it lit up the Olympic Stadium in the southern district of Jamsil for the first time in 3 decades. Won Jung-hwan reports.
The Olympic torch has been on the road for 70 days in Korea, but finally arrived in Seoul over the weekend, one of its final stops before it steadily makes its way to PyeongChang, the host city of the 2018 Winter Olympics. The torch relay began in Seoul on Saturday and runs through Tuesday on a course spanning around 100 kilometers, with some 600 torchbearers doing the honors. The star-studded list of torchbearers included K-pop stars and TV show celebrities. Former professional basketball player Seo Jang-un said he felt joy, but also a sense of responsibility after being selected as one of the runners to carry the very essence of the Olympic spirit around the capital city.
As one of the professional athletes, I had an opportunity to participate at the Olympic torch relay today, and I would like to ask more people to pay greater attention to the upcoming 2018 PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games.
A variety of different relay events to celebrate the Olympics have been held under the 5 themes of economy, environment, ICT, culture, and peace. The organizing committee says the theme of the torch relay in Seoul is the 4th theme, culture. The Royal Carriage Parade Relay, or Ogahaengyeol, is a fabulous Joseon Dynasty-era parade that's a perfect example of Korea's rich cultural heritage. The royal procession started in front of the capital's iconic Gyeongbokgung Palace and marched to Gangwamun Plaza with the torch. The ritual music and the atmosphere emphasized the importance of this royal ceremony, held to the highest degree of formality. During Sunday's leg, the torch passed the fortress walls of Seoul and the Bukchon Hanok village and ended up at the Olympic Stadium in Jamsil, which was the heart of the sporting action during the 1988 Seoul Olympics. After leaving Seoul, the torch will travel the northern parts of Gyeonggi-do province and head towards PyeongChang, where it will arrive on February 9th, the day of the opening ceremony. Won Jong-un, Arirang News.
Now for a look at the stories making headlines around the world, and we start with a powerful earthquake that has struck southern Peru. The 7.1 magnitude quake has left at least 2 people dead and several dozen others injured. For more on this and other news from around the globe, let's turn to our Noah Adam. So Adam, just exactly how bad is it looking over there in Peru?
Well, Mark, the epicenter of the quake struck offshore in the early hours of Sunday morning at a depth of 36 kilometers just southwest from the town of Acari. It also shook a string of towns in southern Peru, toppling homes and crumbling roads. Officials said a 55-year-old man died in the town of Yauca after being crushed by rock. A second death was reported in the town of Bella Union, but further details are yet to be given. At least 65 people are also said to have been injured. Early reports that 17 people were missing at a collapsed mine were later withdrawn, with authorities saying there were no mining disruptions. There was no tsunami threat as well, and though roads were damaged, ports and airports were reported to be operating normally. President Pedro Pablo Kaczynski said he would visit the area later Sunday to view the damage and help provide aid to hundreds left homeless. Earthquakes are common in Peru, but many homes are built with weak materials that cannot withstand them. The dream vacation spot of Hawaii was gripped by panic for 38 minutes over the weekend after a false missile alarm went out on Saturday. The emergency alert told residents, quote, "Ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill." It turns out the message was sent by mistake by an employee at Hawaii's Emergency Management Agency who pushed the wrong button during procedures that occur during the shift handover. A federal investigation is underway, and officials say they will ensure something similar never happens again. Furious with the blunder, Representative Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii said such grave errors could push the U.S. to the brink of an actual nuclear war. President Trump has come under fire for his lack of response or comment. He had been playing golf in Florida when the alarm went off. The White House, however, has since said that the president was briefed about the incident and called it purely a state exercise. An Iranian oil tanker has sunk after burning for more than a week after it collided with a cargo ship in waters just off the east coast of China. The Sanchi was carrying almost 1 million barrels of oil to South Korea, which were all set alight and eventually led the tanker to sink on Sunday. 3 bodies have been recovered and the rest of the 32-person crew is presumed to be dead. President Hassan Rouhani expressed his condolences and called on relevant government agencies to investigate the tragedy and take any necessary legal measures. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, meanwhile, also earlier told his Iranian counterpart that Beijing would continue to search for the crew.
If there's one item from Korea causing a global sensation, with its unforgettable flavors and charms, what would you say it is? It's Hanshik, Korean cuisine. As if providing its global popularity, many YouTubers are sharing their experiences of K-food with others around the globe. Let's kick off a delicious journey into Korean culture with special company. This is an award ceremony held in Seoul. The unique thing is, all the prize winners are non-Korean YouTubers. This award ceremony is part of a video contest that took place under the theme of My Favorite K-Food. Ranging from traditional food to processed foods, the participants cook or taste their favorite Korean food in the videos. These videos definitely speak to their love and affection for Korean food.
I love to watching a Korean series drama, and I always see them eat a Korean food and it looks yummy.
The prize winners are given the chance to travel different cities in Korea over 5 days. talking about Korean food, we can't forget about kimchi, a staple fermented vegetable side dish. This is a Korean Culture Experience Center in Hanok Village in Jeonju. Here, visitors can learn how to make kimchi and taste their own kimchi. Types and tastes of kimchi differ from region to region. In Jeonju, the locals use onions, daikon radishes, garlic, and fermented yellow croakers for the kimchi marinade. They seem genuinely excited about this new experience. Through the process, they also feel the warm sentiments of Koreans.
じゃあちょっとちっちゃく試食してみようかと思います。もうちょっと食べよう。作りたてでもこんな味がしっかりついてるんだ。
Above all, they had the most fun learning about Korean traditional alcohol, ranging from takju, raw rice liquor, and yakju, medicinal liquor, to hard liquor. They also learned how to make traditional alcohol themselves. The first step to making makgeolli is cooking hard-boiled rice. That's the main ingredient of the beverage as well. Then the rice should be mixed with water and nuruk, a Korean fermentation starter. After 3 days to a week, the ingredients slowly ferment before finally turning into a milky off-white beverage.
I'm currently making makgeolli. I've just added yeast. This is how it's made. It's so fun.
Makgeolli is highly versatile. With a few gentle bubbles, it can be used as a base spirit for countless fruit cocktails, making it popular among youngsters and foreigners.
I like it. It's different than what I expected it to be. Like back home, we use more like grapes, podo, and the taste is more, has a strong liquor taste to it. So it's just different, but I enjoyed it.
Now, the YouTubers are on a strawberry farm to harvest winter strawberries. Strawberries are a spring fruit in Korea, but winter strawberries are more popular for their firm texture and refreshing sweetness. These guys are finally harvesting strawberries. Of course, they never miss their chance of sharing this unique experience with their viewers. The strawberries have been growing using eco-friendly means and are absolutely delicious. They can be enjoyed the way they are, but these guys are making strawberry cupcakes in time for Christmas. Time flew by, and the 5-day trip is about to come to an end. They must feel closer to Korea after experiencing the quintessence of Korean culture and cuisine.
This trip can touch with a lot of like agriculture, then the local culture. So it's something different that maybe a tourist that is quite difficult to experience it. So it's very interesting and amazing.
5 days in Korea in winter must have left a very special impression on the prize winners. Now, it's time for them to share those moments again with their viewers in their own unique ways.
Good morning. It's not sub-freezing temperatures we have to deal with today, it's the high level of fine dust. So have your face mask ready and drink plenty of water today. But aside from the dust, it's surprisingly mild. You'll notice much more bearable temperatures compared to the past few days. And Seoul will get up to 7 degrees Celsius this afternoon, and many regions will see readings 4 to 5 degrees higher than what we would normally see around this time of year. In fact, we'll see readings above the norms this week, while fine dust levels could remain high to relatively high. With that, let's take a look at the international weather for viewers around the world. Well, most regions in South Korea will be dealing with high levels of fine dust all day. Most cities in North Korea will see much colder temperatures along with snowfall in some parts. And as for the rest of Asia, China is covered in a blanket of toxic smog, and levels will remain hazardous all day today. Meanwhile, major cities in Australia will have a rainy start to the work week, so have your umbrella handy. Heading to North America, bone-chilling temperatures are in the forecast in Montreal at a high of minus 15 degrees Celsius, but things will get better next week. And as for South America, Rio de Janeiro will have a blistering hot day at a high of 35 degrees Celsius, so beware of a heat stroke. And taking you to Europe, Britain is set to have colder and windier weather this week with snow in some parts of the country, while it's going to be a rainy Monday in London. Lastly, to Africa, Sunday's rainfall in Cape Town will continue into Monday. And that's all the weather update for now.
And that's where we're going to leave the news for now as well. Our next bulletin is coming up at noon Korea time. So until then, goodbye.
In a village called PyeongChang, there will be the biggest and the most wonderful winter sports festival in the world.